I just came across a song. See, I'm from another generation. The music I listened to was, I mean, the secular music of the times when I was in high school was Korn and, you know, Roll Eyes, Korn, Limp Bizkit, uh, Sepultura, Soulfly. Uh, let's see, Nirvana, Deftones. Uh, take your pick. Most of those bands had F words in them. I mean, but it was a different generation. But one thing about none of those bands. Here's the funny thing, with the exception of maybe one or two Korn songs, none of those bands ever made a mockery out of hell. There was this Lake of Fire song by Nirvana, but even then it was kind of scary to listen to. None of those bands ever made a mock or a scoff out of hell. They just avoided it. And so, although they were profane, although they were potty mouths and juvenile delinquent groups, none of them, when it came to the topic of hell, no. None of them were like, hell's not real, I don't believe in hell. And let's make a song about it. You know. So, that's an aspect about my groups that were, I think, good, actually. And Ozfest was a really big deal in high school. Ozzy Osbourne had a concert thing that he would do where he would get all the hard bands together, and Max Cavalera's son-in-law got murdered in a drug deal, and he had to leave Ozfest one year. I think it was 1998, and that was a really big deal because they were big headliners at Ozfest, and so Ozzy let him go, and was sad for him and stuff. And so here's the thing: why am I talking about this? Because as worldly and as carnal and as just grieving as those groups were, none of them that I know of, Deftones, Soulfly, Sepultura, Ozzy, Fear Factory, none of those groups made a mockery out of hell that I know of. None of those Ozfest groups did. And if any of them did, okay, I would, I take it back, but it just wasn't part of the lyrical themes. In fact, what you had was the devil is real, and he's not to be worshipped. He's real, and he's a menace. It was kind of the mentality. Although it always was turned out as a gimmick, but nevertheless, the Ozfest thematic was, if we are going to make mention to supernatural realities in the Bible, we are assuming them that they are real. And if there are songs about these things, it's going to create a sense of fear and transcendence about it. Take, for example, the Spawn soundtrack. Okay? Spawn was a movie of a comic book character that had a lot of these Ozfest bands on it, okay? And, I don't agree with everything Spawn was about, but it's just an illustration of what I'm trying to say, is that Ozfest generation that I grew up with, there wasn't this cynical necessarily, I mean, at least when it comes to the thematic material of songs, there wasn't this cynical anti-biblical sentiment. Now, it's true that there's a lot of carnality in it. There's no question about that. But there was not, and there were atheists mixed in all over. But I do want to say this. There was almost a strain of fundamentalism in the Ozfest groups. There was almost a thread of fundamentalism about the reality of hell and the reality of the devil. And these are not things to be celebrated. These are things to be feared. And that was kind of an undercurrent. Here's the Spawn soundtrack, okay? Long Hard Road Out of Hell by Marilyn Manson. You might say, man, he's a devil worshiper. Yeah, well, that's not a devil worshiping song, though. It's about a guy coming out of hell because he had an experience and other things. But Marilyn Manson was raised in an independent fundamental Baptist school. When he rebelled against it because he had church hurt. What else was I going to say? There's lots of things like that. Look, this is not an endorsement of Ozfest. This is not an endorsement of Spawn movies. What I'm trying to say is this. That the rock and roll culture of the late 90s was not the same as the rock and roll culture of the late 70s. And from what I have observed, the rock and roll culture of the 1970s was much more atheistic, much more anti-Christian, and much more hedonistic than the rock and roll culture of the late 90s. There was sort of a spiritual undercurrent with the Ozfest groups for one reason or another. It just was. And as carnal as they were, I think the issue there was Ozzy at that stage in his life had been through drug rehab and gotten clean. And other groups had gone through similar experiences and could relate to that. So there was a straight edge element, and there was a element of hell could be real at least, and the devil could be real, right? If not emphatically making those statements. Of course, peppered with cuss words all throughout, but I mean, and I don't approve that, but the point is that there was a fundamentalist strain in some of those Ozfest groups. Okay. I'm not saying I support the 100%. I just wanted to make that absolutely clear. Okay. Now, with that being said, I never listened to AC/DC. I never liked their sound. I heard a couple of them. I never liked that group. Never. I was just going on YouTube recently. I was just browsing about hell stuff on YouTube. The only prominent evangelist today who preaches about hell is Bill Weiss. Second to that, I'd say Ray Comfort. These are the only two guys that are talking about hell on YouTube. Think about how concerning that is from a spiritual point of view. Only two? That's concerning to me. But anyway, so anyway, I go and I find this song called Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be by AC/DC from 1977. Let's read this guy's lyrics and see what he has to say. Hey you, yeah you. Sometimes I think this woman's kind of hot. Sometimes I think this woman's sometimes not. Puts me down, fool me around. What's she doing to me? Out for satisfaction, any piece of action? That ain't the way it should be. So the first thing he has to say is that he's with a woman. He's with a woman, and she plays around with his emotions. Okay. And the name of the song is Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. Okay. So it's clearly an erotic song. It's erotic. It has nothing to do with eternal punishment in hell at all. At least first off. All right. Then he goes to say, she needs lovin', knows I'm the man. She's gotta see, pours my beer, licks my ear, brings out the devil in me. Okay, so now here, we're not talking about a real hell and a real demon. Right? It's all allegory. It's all romantic, erotic. Okay. Then he says, hell ain't a bad place to be, over and over and over. Well, he clearly doesn't believe in hell, right? This is an unbeliever song about people who don't believe in hell, right? He's just saying he doesn't believe in the devil. He doesn't believe in hell. This is just a romantic, erotic song. And the only reason why he's jumping to this is that there's some sort of illicit element in his relationship with a woman. You see what I'm saying? There were none of the groups I listened to growing up treated hell like that. It was always like, hell, don't go there. The possibility of your destruction. I mean, there was a sense of fear of God in him. Like, yeah, dude, I'm not going to hell. You kidding? Okay, now, AC/DC, he goes on to say, spends my money, drinks my booze, stays out every night, but I got to thinking, hey, just a minute, something ain't right. Oh, disillusions and confusion make me want to cry. All the shame you playing your games, tell me those lies. Okay, what does this have to do with hell? Nothing. Back to romantic dramas with some woman. Okay, then he says, don't mind her playing demon, as long as it's with me. If this is hell, then let me say it's heavenly. Okay. Then he says, hell ain't a bad place to be, over and over and over again. This is a song of fools. Ecclesiastes, Song of Fools. It's the Song of Fools, right? Oh, yeah, she's just like a demon. And if this is hell, hell ain't a bad place to be. Man, why don't you just go and get married and go to church and raise your kids in the nurture and admonition of the Lord? But you see, this is just a bunch of rhetoric. This is what you call rhetoric. Then he goes on to say, end of the night, turns down the light, closes up on me, opens my heart, tears it apart, brings out the devil in me. Then he says, hell ain't a bad place to be. I said, hell ain't a bad place to be. Hell ain't a bad place to be. I know that hell ain't a bad place to be. Dang, what a foolish song. So, I don't agree with all the stuff that came out of Ozfest, but none of them treated hell like that. Not that I know of. It was always like screaming about hell, like, don't go there. It was like the Hellraiser hell. It was like, dude, no way. I'm not going to have a bunch of pins put in my head. Thank you very much. And there was a sense of the reality of it, of crazy, insane reality of it. Because when you die, it's going to be one bad trip that'll never end. But this is just like, hell's a woman. Hell's a demon, a woman that keeps licking on my ear. And it's a stupid song anyway. And just go home and just go read your Bible. That's all I have to say about that one, Angus. God bless out there. This is John with WesleyGospel.com.